Hi guys, this is Donna and welcome to my channel. And if you're applying for scholarship and you don't really know what are the requirements or what kind of documents you want to prepare for applying to the scholarship, this video is for you. Today I'm going to be talking about many kind of requirements that you have to prepare for from an early time so that your application process for the scholarship is going on very smoothly. So I have some points in my mind that I'm going to be talking about today, but if you have any kind of further questions regarding to these topics, of course let me know in the comment section below. I'll try my level best to answer all of your questions. So the first thing that we are going to be talking about are the documents. Documents are very important, as we all know. Sometimes there are some scholarship that you can apply for without having some of the documents, but you also have to state the reason why you don't have the documents, and you have to kind of make them believe that you will submit the documents later on. But in most of the cases you have to have all of the documents while applying for the scholarship. The first document that you have to have is your application form. So it's very basic. You should have the application form of the scholarship that you're applying for or the country that you're applying for, and it's very important that you have fulfilled the application form with all of the correct info of yours. You should not make any mistakes, because if you're making a mistake, it's very hard to get it done in the right way. The second thing that we're going to be talking about is the form issued by the Education Ministry. In my previous video, I have talked about government scholarship, and I also talked about how you should apply to the Education Ministry first for the scholarship, and only then you will get evaluated by the embassy. So it's very important that you are fulfilling the form issued by the Education Ministry, and you have to have it, because when you're fulfilling that form, you're going to have a tracking number and all of it, and all of that comes very handy whenever you're selected for the scholarship. The third thing that I'm going to be talking about is the HSC certificates and the SSC certificates. That means the results of your 10th board exams and the 12th board exams. Sometimes for some scholarship they also ask you about your 11th board exam results and certificate, but in most of the countries, especially in my country, we don't really have any official like result or any certificate for the 11th exams, so we don't really have that, and it's not required if you have your 12th ones. If you have your 10th and 12th ones, you don't really need the 11th ones. The mark sheet is very important, because the mark sheet kind of lets the uni decides how much you are eligible to choose the major that you're applying for. The fourth thing that I'm going to be talking about is passport and national ID card. Passport and national ID card is very important. So because after our 12th we are just above like 18, many of us don't have our national ID card or passport, but it's very important that you have your passport and national ID card, because in a lot of schemes you cannot apply if you don't have a passport. So if you're thinking about applying for scholarship and everything, first go and make a passport. That's very important. And also your NID is very important. Without your passport and NID, you cannot even apply for IELTS exam. So that's why no matter what you do, these two things are something irreplaceable. Another thing that I'm going to be talking about, your birth certificate. Although if you have your NID and your passport, birth certificate is not required in many places, but in some places again birth certificate is required, and you have to show your authentic birth certificate, and you also may have to submit the copy. So it's better to keep your birth certificate near you so that you can use it whenever it's needed. Next thing that we're going to be talking about is the IELTS test results or the IELTS certificate. Now let me tell you, IELTS is not required. When you get the scholarship whole scheme, if you read it, you will see that it's not really mentioned that you need the IELTS or you need the IELTS certificate or anything like that. But when you're applying for the uni in that country, that uni most of the time requires a certain score in IELTS or TOEFL. It really depends on the country, but most of the countries kind of accepts IELTS test results. So it's really important that you're kind of going for the IELTS before you're applying for the scholarship. And IELTS, no matter what, is going to come handy, and it kind of increases your chances of getting the scholarship or even getting accepted by the uni. So right when you think that, okay, I want to apply for scholarship abroad and I want to study abroad, start preparing for IELTS at that very moment, because some of us are coming from a country where English is the second language and we are not really using it on a regular basis. So it's important that you are preparing for IELTS. The last thing that I'm going to be talking about is the attestation. Now, attestation kind of can seem very, very tricky because it's kind of a complicated process and it's not something that we are very known to. Attestation is basically verification of your documents that you have. So when we are submitting the documents to the education ministry, we are not submitting the original documents. You should never do that. You're submitting the photocopies of your original documents. When you're submitting the 10th or 12th board exam certificates and the mark sheet and you're making the copy of those copies should be verified before you're submitting it to the education ministry. So for that, the attestation process is kind of, in my country, is like you have to go to the education board first and you submit it for the verification by the education board. I am under Rajshahi board. There are like 7 board, I believe. So you have to submit to the board under which you have written the exams, 10th or 12th, and then after having that verified from the education board, you have to go to the foreign ministry. So first you get your certificates attested by the education board and then you go to the foreign ministry because you're applying for abroad, so it's important that you're getting your documents verified by the foreign ministry in your country. So after you get your documents verified in the foreign ministry, you have to go to the lawyer, and you have to go to any lawyer. It really depends on you, and then you have to get all of the photocopies notarized, and only then you can submit them to the Ministry of Education. So it really depends though. Sometimes in some scholarship schemes you don't have to do this whole attestation process. You just can submit the photocopies, but it's better to have some copies attested in hand because we are applying for a lot of them, so it's better if you have them. These were all about the documents that you have to make ready before applying for government scholarship. I'm talking solely based on my personal experience, but it really depends on you and what kind of scholarship you're applying for. So it's very important that you are researching enough on the scholarship that you're applying for, on what kind of documents you need. I have applied for scholarship a year back, so I would suggest that you are checking all of the requirements first and then you are going for the application process or getting the documents ready. The second thing that we're going to be talking about is the IELTS exam. Now, the IELTS certificate is something that's a very lengthy process, especially if you're not coming from an English background or your second language is English. And IELTS is something that you need a good preparation for. It's not something that you just can go right into. So the moment when you realize that I want to study abroad and I'm going to apply for scholarship, start taking your IELTS preparation at that moment, like from that moment, because it's very, very important and it increases the chance of getting the scholarship. And if you're applying to the uni where IELTS is required for your major, then without the IELTS certificate, you're not even going to get accepted by the uni, let alone get the scholarship. From my experience, because I had an English background, I didn't really need much like the preparation, and I took the IELTS preparation in a very, very short time. You can check out my videos that I uploaded previously regarding to the IELTS preparation of mine, which I took in about 20 days. I will kind of link it below or kind of add it to the video. But for you, I believe that IELTS preparation is something that should be personalized and it's really up to you, and you know very well how much you can do well, what kind of things you have to improve on and all of that. So I believe that for the IELTS preparation, if you're coming from a non-English background, just start earlier. It's very, very important, and if you have a good score, as I said, the chances increases. The third thing that we're going to be talking about today is Viva and exams. So for the Viva, we all know basically for the government scholarship, most of the time the question that they ask you is based on your application. They ask you about your purpose of study and why you're interested in major, why you're interested in this uni, why you're interested in their country, and all of it. The answers are something that you have to come up with. You have to actually know yourself and understand what are the reasons you're applying for these things, and you also have to present those answers in front of them so that they understand about your whole like thinking process and all of that. So it's really something that depends on you, but of course you can take someone's help to kind of have it in your mind. You can practice this viva and this speaking with someone near you so that you can get a clear kind of insight on what's happening in your head and what kind of answers you're delivering. And for the exams, sometimes the exams are taken by the uni and sometimes the exams are taken by the embassy. So for my Hungary government scholarship, the exam was taken by the uni, and the exam was on math and English because I applied for the finance and accounting major. And for the other scholarships, I was required to give an exam on English or basic languages. So the exam really depends on the uni and the embassy and the whole scholarship scheme. But I would say, even if they're taking an exam, the exams are basically on basic knowledge regarding to that subject, and it really depends on the major that you're applying for. So if you're applying for the scholarship, you have to have a good knowledge about your major that you're applying for, and you also have to have a good knowledge on English because English comes on really handy and there are at least a few questions in English. So try to keep a preparation on that. And also when you're applying for a scholarship, try to look on what kind of questions they're doing, is there in exams or not, and if there are exams, try to find some scholars who have applied for the scholarship before and who are currently the scholars. They will have your answers better regarding to the exams, exam question type, and what kind of answers you have to give and all of it. So it really depends on the scholarship scheme, but from my experience, the government scholarship that I have applied for, it's better to keep a good preparation on English and on math. These both comes really handy. But if you're applying for a certain major, keep a preparation on the subject related to your major. That's also going to help you, especially if the exam is held by the uni. That was it for the video. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you like the video, please give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends and family, and also subscribe to the channel. I hope to see you soon. Stay well and stay healthy.